welcome Canada Startup back for another week for more comments about the crypto markets, the digital currencies, and investing. And while we are not financial advisors, we are participants in the market. Hi, Bill. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks, Dave. How are you?
Fantastic. And hello again, Justin. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Excited to be on.
How's the market treated you in the last week, and what's been one or two of your biggest observations or learnings?
The market's been great over the last week. As far as crypto is concerned, I think the biggest news and the biggest observation is Elon Musk and Tesla acquiring $1.5 billion of Bitcoin into their balance sheet. I think that resulted in one of the largest ever one-day candles for Bitcoin's price. And unlike with Dogecoin, it doesn't seem to have died almost instantly. So definitely a lot of exciting stuff. Another great thing with the whole Bitcoin purchase is we've also actually seen almost the whole market move up. I don't think there's too many coins that outperformed Bitcoin yesterday, but it's great to see that the money is flowing into the crypto market in general, not just Bitcoin.
Bill, Justin just downloaded a lot of stuff that maybe half of it was in a different language from what you're used to. Is there a specific question that you would have about what he just said?
I think I'm just going to listen and observe for the first bit because I'm kind of lost on all of that.
All right, so I'm going to follow up with a couple of questions, Justin, and basically just step back a little bit. What did Elon Musk do, and why does it matter?
Yeah, so I think to sort of go about that, I think it's great to sort of look back at the different instances that we've seen institutions really start to move towards crypto. I think, one is Grayscale. I'd say a bit different. They're more in the asset management side, but, ever since that they came out with something that more retail investors can purchase in their GBTC funds, you start to see more retail people go into crypto. I think one, or probably like the main instance that we look at is MSTR, MicroStrategy. I think a couple months ago, they put at $700 million of their balance sheet into Bitcoin. And again, I think the main message that they wanted to convey was that, with the US dollar weakening, they didn't want their balance sheet denominated in this unstable currency that's subject to, probably large future inflation, and that they saw Bitcoin as, I wouldn't say more stable, but definitely a more promising asset to store the company's value, or to, again, store the company's balance sheet. If you follow the Twitter, the CEO of MicroStrategy and Elon Musk have actually sort of had a couple of public chats on Twitter about, how can they buy such large denominations of Bitcoin. And I think that sort of the impact of now, we have the hottest stock of 2020 in probably the hottest sector, and probably the next company poised to break $1 trillion market cap. I think that definitely speaks volumes as to sort of the potential influence it can have on the other S&P 500 companies, other large cap companies. I know there's rumors going around right now that Larry Ellison?
Larry Ellison of Oracle.
They're speculated to be maybe the next company who might take that sort of dive. But again, I think you see with the stock price just from what Tesla did itself, that's just one company in the full ocean of large cap US stocks. So I think that, it's definitely a nice bit of affirmation that it's not just sort of this worthless coin. It's something that the institutions are really looking at to, be the future of money, maybe.
So let me try to bring it into another perspective, because you're speaking a language that it's like you're fluent in this language, whereas many people who are new to Bitcoin, digital currencies, And I get asked today, in fact, I got asked by a president of a Canadian company, a multi-billion-dollar business, and he was asking me, can maybe one day you can explain it to me? And so it's not about not knowing, Bill. And this is the thing, is our generation, this is really very foreign, that there's this currency or digital currency that is on the blockchain that has been attempting to compete with gold and silver as an alternative investment vehicle, as an insurance, that if everything was to go crazy, if we had hyperinflation in North America, if the dollar became worthless, things that most of us in Canada would say, yo, that's not possible. Yet some of you or us that have lived in Africa or have seen it happen in Asia, hyperinflation can wipe out everything immediately. When I was a bond trader, I saw the currency in Indonesia go from 2,450 to 27,000 in a week. That's like our dollar going to 10 cents against the US dollar, or 7 cents. Some of us would say it's impossible, but guess what? There's people that saying you ought to have some alternatives to putting all your money in Uncle Sam, because Uncle Sam and the people who are running the Fed right now are just cranking out that money like they don't have a responsibility. And so something like MicroStrategies, and I do invite people to check. Are you familiar with his name, Justin?
No.
Okay.
Like I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
I think it's Michael Saylor. And so Michael Saylor was one of the people who came out and wanted to be a spokesperson, because he went and did his own independent research and said, the way the government is doing, I don't want to have $1 billion of my company money sitting in US dollars. It's going to devalue. What is an alternative that is actually going to go up? And he said, I'm putting our company's reserves, and he has a digital company and an artificial intelligence company. That stock has gone up over 300% in the last 4 months, because he moved $1 billion of his company reserves into Bitcoin. And so he's got this hedge against inflation, but he's also got this investment if things happen. And again, his investment has gone up. How much has Bitcoin gone up in the last 4 months, Just?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, triple, double, whatever X that you can
So the guy made the bet, and it's doubled for him, and his stock keeps going. So it went from 300 to 600 to 900 to over 1,000 in the last 3 days. And he's been having talks with Elon Musk, and he said, Elon, you're going to be receiving Bitcoin in the future. And Elon said, okay, I want to be the first car company to receive Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, because that's the gap, is that most people don't look at Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And Justin, you mentioned that if it can be used as a medium of exchange, that's when it really takes off again. Is that how does that work, Just?
Yeah, I remember us having that conversation. Again, like people find it hard to sort of classify Bitcoin into one purpose, right? Like one use case. Just because like so many comparisons have been drawn over the years. But yeah, definitely. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by how does it work, but you know,
and you doing something different. So what has happened in the market recently is Graystroke has allowed Bill and I to open up a stock account and buy a ETF, an exchange traded fund called GBTC. That's gone from $6 to $40 in the last 6 months, Bill. But if we open up a Wealth Simple account and have a trading account, we can buy that. It doesn't give us a Bitcoin. It gives us an investment in an exchange traded fund. Right? And so that's a derivative of a Bitcoin. Right. But Justin, he invests in Bitcoin. He opens up a wallet, and with that wallet, he can buy other types of digital currencies. He can go to some stores and actually do transactions based on his wallet, because it's a device like a credit card that's backed up by a holding he has in a Bitcoin or an Ethereum. And there's people that will actually do transactions with them. And that's when Bitcoin really takes off the next level of value, is when it's just not a hedge of inflation, it's also a medium of exchange.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you've taught me,
Okay.
Justin. And that's when it becomes really much more real as a full investment product, just not a written line in a blockchain. So if somebody did want to set up a Bitcoin account, what would be one or two ways that they could do that, Just?
That's a great question, and I think there's sort of been a lot of new exchanges coming up, but there's also been a lot of exchanges in the past that have either gone bust or fraudulent in some ways, and I think that's definitely something that still keeps a lot of the mainstream out of taking that plunge, jumping into crypto. But I would say in that case. Just find one that you trust. Maybe if you have buddies that have been doing this a long time, they might be able to help direct you. Me myself, if you're in Canada, I really like BitBuy, just because it lets you directly put your Canadian dollars into your account. I know there's other exchanges like FTX, Binance, that are also much more US and internationally focused. So those are just some great options to get started. And I think what you said is really important, to really distinguish between owning Bitcoin through a fund such as GBTC, or even now, if you buy the MSTR stock, if you buy Tesla, or if you buy maybe you want to buy something like Riot Blockchain, who are mines, you're investing in exposure to Bitcoin, right? But I think as I sort of went on through those examples, it became very clear that just by buying those things doesn't actually give you the coin, doesn't give you the right. And so although it's easier, it does sort of block off any potential for that being used as that medium exchange that you mentioned to be ever so maybe important down the line. So I definitely think that people should maybe throw on a YouTube. It's really not, like, I wouldn't say it's too complicated. And also, like, I think one more thing is definitely like the KYC process has definitely shrugged a lot of people off. I know when you were making your BitBuy account, that definitely took some time, and that was definitely an obstacle. But if you follow the process, being able to have your own wallet with your own cryptocurrency in it, when Elon Musk does allow you to buy the Tesla car with Bitcoin, that's how you would do it. So it's definitely something to get familiar with and get some practice with, for sure.
KYC, by the way, is know your client. Is that right?
Yeah, know your client, know your customer. One of
And
those.
so, Bill, that's the way that we go online and register for a Wealth Simple. You see how easy they're making it. Whereas Bitcoin, setting up a BitBuy, it's a little bit more robust. They've shot it back to me twice now, Justin. So I'm still in the process of setting up that account.
Mm-hmm.
The first derivative is actually buying the Bitcoin. That's when you use one of these wallets, and BitBuy is one from Canada. And is there another one that you're pretty familiar with that you would perhaps suggest?
So I also use an exchange called FTX. I think it's a bit newer, but they only, that's if you have maybe US dollars that you're happy to wire in. I'd have to do a little more research. BitBuy is my primary source when it comes to Canadian dollars. And I think that one, as far as UI goes, if you're the type of person, that you probably will only buy a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of maybe Ethereum, but you're not really going to go too deep into it. You're not looking to really trade derivatives. You're not looking to, do all that margin related stuff. You just want to buy it and have it in a wallet that you can then maybe transfer around at some point. I would say BitBuy is probably the easiest option that I've experienced.
Would you like to share a little bit? So right now, Bitcoin is still the big guy in the house, still demanding the biggest market share. Ethereum has done very well relative to Bitcoin in the last 3 months. And people are actually saying that in the next 6 months or next year, Ethereum is likely to go up more proportionally than Bitcoin. Do you have a view on that?
I think that a lot of people, well, especially when it comes to just trading in the crypto market, it's different from trading stocks where you have maybe 5 years of relevant historical data, right? When you want to trade stocks, you can look a little bit further. When you look at economic cycles, people often look at what happened during '08, maybe something that happened during the internet bubble. We really only have that 2017 2018 boom that really sort of brought Bitcoin into mainstream and then took it right back out as quickly as it went in. And so when we talk about things like, how will alternative coins that are not Bitcoin compare relatively, a lot of times we look at things like that. So I think one of like the key arguments is right now when you compare Ethereum's price to Bitcoin's price, you'll notice that it's sort of trading at around 4% of Bitcoin's price. Now, back in 2018, when we called it an alt cycle, we called it when everything else sort of got its chance to shine, we saw it trading up to almost 10 or 12% of Bitcoin's price. So I think that's definitely a very large bull case for Ethereum, is that the bull market for Ethereum has just started. It still has all, like, there's all this money in Bitcoin that is still due to sort of flow into these smaller coins when investors, they look at Bitcoin's price, they're like, okay, in order to double my money, Bitcoin has to go to $94,000. I want faster money, right? So they might look at other projects, or maybe they're just really into the technology and the environment and the ecosystem, so they'll look for different projects to put their money in. So you have all of that still might contribute to an Ethereum bull case. Me personally, I like Ethereum. I like the idea of smart contracts a lot, and a good majority or minority of the applications that are built on blockchains are built off of Ethereum's blockchain. We won't get too deep into that, but I do like it. I don't think me personally, I don't think we'll hit the similar levels in 2017, just because you are seeing more institutional and retail investment. Like, I don't think, for example, a company like Tesla will want to make this, will want to put some of their funds into ETH or Litecoin or any of the alternatives. But I think that if you're willing to sort of do a little more research into the technology behind things, you can definitely find a lot of coins that are still sort of in that beginning phase of really, really going parabolic.
So what do you see as the risks right now for Bitcoin or the digital currencies?
I think the biggest sort of exogenous risk that we might see is maybe the Fed comes out, like the US comes out with some sort of law that like bans something to do with cryptocurrencies, right? And they might, they're probably pretty worried that if more and more companies decide to follow Tesla and MicroStrategy's path, that they might have to sort of put some sort of limitation on that. But I would also say that we are in quite a big bull cycle, so it's easy to sort of catch that FOMO and really try to ride it to the moon. Like, a lot of people are convinced that Bitcoin's gonna go into like the mid 6-digit range. It might, but again, like, I would still put these assets in the similar class that you might put your Tesla shares or your speculative stocks. But I think that with each passing day that we don't see some sort of 50 to 60% dip or drop, I think you can get more and more confident. For example, the bull cycle for Bitcoin back in 2017 lasted maybe a week or two, right? We're now in month 3 or 4 of Bitcoin being on this gargantuan rise. So, and we didn't have nearly the same amount of institutional interest that we did back then. So I think you still have to approach it with caution, but it's starting to look more and more like something that you can look to for the medium term or maybe even the long term.
Well, one of the things we talked about was, does it make sense for people like Bill and I, and even people older than us, to get some exposure to Bitcoin? And the guidance that has really changed in the last 6 months, I've noticed, is that some of the wiser investors are saying have 2 to 5% of your portfolio in some type of alternative currency, and have 2 to 5% in gold and silver. And so that's quite big change. For people like you, Justin, having 10 to 30% of your portfolio in Bitcoin might be something that is a good balance. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think the 2 to 5% makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's definitely sort of a great way to, you know, it's like to me, when people say that, it's similar to say, again, like put 2 to 5% in like a Tesla, or like maybe the next Tesla, like in something that could still skyrocket. For people like my age, again, I think I think anytime you put 30% of your holdings into one asset, I think that's a little under diversified, but definitely putting 30% into different cryptocurrencies could be a great strategy. Again, we still, for 99% of blockchain based applications, they haven't seen any mainstream sort of success yet, right? So I really want to see that next step in, when are we not just talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum? For example, like I know Mark Cuban, right? He, first of all, someone who had much more negative thoughts about cryptocurrencies a couple years ago. I know he owns Bitcoin, ETH. I know he owns a couple more as well. I don't want to misquote him, but I think he owns about 4 or 5 different cryptocurrencies, and I think that's a great idea. But yeah, definitely, I think it's something that if you're looking to have some sort of diversified portfolio, I think it's definitely something that you can't overlook anymore.
The Canadian government was right on it today. They made their declaration that your Bitcoin trading profits will be taxed. They're going to look at whether they're going to tax it at a revenue, like it's added revenue for you, or they may look at it as a trading capital gains. And they were pretty forthright today, saying if your business is trading, then it's going to be treated as regular income 100%. If it is as an investment, we're going to look at it as investment. A number of people who are ahead of the game a little bit, they're doing those transactions in their TFSA or their RSP, and that's something that is likely a decent strategy for a Canadian. Any thoughts on that, or did you see the recent, because it just came out in the last 24 hours, is the way that crypto is going to be treated for this year?
No, I actually haven't seen that piece, but I was looking on how crypto like is taxed, and I think over the last year I've sort of looked in here and there. I think the main thing to take away is that depending on your country, it can be taxed completely differently. And all of that is still subject to change. I think, yeah, like I think I did in my head, when I sort of run the numbers, I do treat it as capital gains, and I think that's probably a fair assumption to make. I know that there's some also like fine print about when you transfer cryptocurrencies around, that it's treated like a bartered good. I'm not really too sure about how that works, but yeah, like I think all in all, like for the long term, you know, it's starting to be incorporated into our tax systems. Probably hopeful, because, you know, you're seeing the government's taking it more seriously, and you know, if the government wants to make money on it too, right? Like, then we might as well.
That's absolutely right. And so that's why I wanted to bring it in today, is that we can have changes in the tax code. And that's the thing that when I was watching Janet Yellen from the Fed talk about that today, and it was like, wow, is she really going to be equipped to deal with this, given that the crypto world is basically young people who are looking for ways to get out of the mainstream and have ways that can be a little bit less easy to track, and what are the ways you are going to regulate or control it. So it's one of those conversations that I believe even us having right now, I don't think anyone's got the answer for it, because it really has to be an evolution, and further conversations with young traders and investors and bankers are part of that dialogue that is going to unfold the new regulations. So let's continue to follow that. I'll put the link from the Canadian Revenue Canada in this chat today. Bill, have you got a question or at all of anything that you're thinking from a personal perspective on crypto investing, or anything that's triggering for you today? Oh, I seem to be on mute. It says your mic is not connected. All right. So Just what would be a last comment today as we bring the session to a close? If we get a question from Bill, maybe he could type it in if you like. Maybe type it in the comments and we can answer it that way. What would be since we talked to you 2 or 3 weeks ago about the crypto market, as we go into the second week of February, what would be a highlight or something for us to look at that might be coming up in the market?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to get sort of a little more serious into cryptocurrency, I think I should start that off with, like, if you do fall in that band that you sort of, you've seen its rise, you want a little piece of the pie, and you're looking at that sort of 2 to 5% range, I think that putting it into Bitcoin or ETH, or one of the companies that move largely due to it, maybe like a GBTC, I think that's a great idea, just because you'll have that exposure. I think, in the next couple of weeks, if you really want to start getting into it, I would honestly say Bitcoin might not do it for you, right? Like I said, if you're looking to trade it more actively, I would start to look at, just search up things like decentralized finance, search up things like altcoins, search up things like crypto protocols. Just start to do some reading on the different technological applications that people are really trying to bring to the market, right? People, like, you have these projects that are really trying to revolutionize, like, lending. People are trying to revolutionize, the way you earn interest on your assets, and just, things like security.
Can I interrupt you and ask you to slow down, because I think what you've just introduced is some new lingo, and that new lingo. So one was decentralized
finance.
And what is that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that, so decentralized finance is an umbrella term, right? And I think that, your best shot at really understanding it is to just take it as face value, is to think about all of your sort of traditional finance tools and vehicles. Think about the different sort of services that you encounter that might have to do with your finances. So things like, taking out loans, like sort of like savings accounts, just, like currency exchange, those sort of things, like where you store your money. For each of those different services, there's probably a blockchain project that is trying to do it better. And I think that, like I did just list that as an example. Is it's one that's close to me because it's probably the one that I've done the most sort of time looking into. But honestly, I think one of the best ways to get involved is if you have a passion, or if you have, sort of maybe a traditional field that you've done a lot of work in. Look at maybe a blockchain project that has something to do with it. So I guess like one example I'd have is maybe you're really into gaming, right? There's a lot of blockchain based games that are really trying to make a name for themselves. Maybe they use blockchain to streamline their microtransactions, or maybe a lot of their data, like personalized data, is stored on a blockchain. And then really look at those and see how your experience as a gamer have been improved through sort of these different implementations, and that'll maybe help you understand more of the value, the sort of the inherent or the innovative value that the blockchain technology is bringing, and that might give you maybe a slighter edge in seeing which one you buy. But to be the bull on the call, I would say that there are quite a few things that you could buy that would hopefully appreciate in the next couple of weeks. One thing that I did to really sort of, I guess, my final tip is, if you don't have Twitter and you want to trade crypto, then you're probably not going to get news fast enough. So make a Twitter, find some people. Again, like Elon Musk, the guy from MicroStrategy. I forgot his name. Please say it again.
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor.
Yes, Saylor.
Yeah, Michael Saylor. Follow Grayscale. Follow a guy called Barry Silbert. I believe he's one of the founders of Grayscale. Follow Chamath. Not going to try to pronounce his last name. I know you're a big fan of him, but follow these guys that have some sort of Bitcoin or crypto exposure, and then just let yourself sort of fall into the rabbit hole, because that's really how I started to learn about a lot of individual projects, started to learn about different like technicals, different techniques, how people approach cryptocurrencies differently to traditional equities, and finally just to be able to keep up with what's going on, right? You don't want to be the last one to hear about Elon Musk's latest Doge tweet. So
that's a great advice, to get yourself involved in the marketplace. It goes back to some of the things that we talked about, I think, when you were 9 and 10 years old, is let's go look at buying the stock of a company you like. And right now, if you're interested in the different cryptos, start following the big players. So we've written down a couple of names. Michael Saylor is MicroStrategies. He truly has been revolutionary in the last 3 months. Elon Musk for Tesla, so disruptive in so many different areas. Yet, do you want to have a little piece of, whether it's Tesla or a little piece of his empire in electric vehicles or charging or boring, or these are all ventures that are so disruptive. SoFi with Chamath is the one that I guess I'll highlight it, and as I bring the session to a close, is that SoFi, I have a feeling, is what you're really talking about, this decentralized finance. It's about having a platform that teaches you about finance and new ways to borrow, new ways to maybe even be part of lending. It could be public projects that could be giving you a better return. And there's so many things that are very disruptive, that if you're one of these guys that just look at the way it used to be, like when we used to always go to the bank and drop our change at the tellers, we're going to be missing out a lot. You don't even use cash anymore, do you?
No, it's been a while, eh? Honestly.
See, this is the funny thing, Bill, is that our young ones, they don't use cash. And in China, it's even further ahead. Like the way that they use WePay, it's just at another level of digital exchange and money. Like, why would you want to have money that they carry germs? And it's a different mentality. So are you back in, Bill? Are you still having some technical issues tonight?
Can you guys hear me okay now?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There we go.
You're back.
Yeah, just to comment on that part. Yeah, you don't see anybody with you very rarely see the coin jar sitting in the kitchen anymore. When you come home and you emptied out your pockets and to save for something big. And how often do you check your coat pocket and even find a coin in there anymore? Very rare.
So it is a new world. Justin, thank you very much for your time today. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. I loved your comment about if you're going to be involved in Bitcoin, subscribe or start following some of the players. I think some good tips today for people to check out the ETF, whether it's GBTC, some of the miners, whether it's Mara or Riots. We've got a couple here in Canada called Hut 8 and BTF. I just played with them in the last month, up 30% today. And it's just crazy, right? 22.8%, 30%. And so it is a fascinating new world we're in. I'm inviting people to explore it, yet be curious, yet notice your risk and play with money that you're playing with and not the money that needs to be paid for rent or food. With that, any last comment? Justin?
I'm good. Thanks a lot, guys. It was very good.
Thank you very much, guys, and appreciate your time and wishing everybody on the Canada Startup channel. If you have any comments, please add some comments. We're looking for some new topics as we move forward. We're looking to share more of our content on YouTube. Please check out our YouTube at Continual Shift. Slap that subscribe button, and we look forward to providing and connecting with more people in the Canadian startup community. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.